we have become way too sensitive and way too impressed with what the news says. We're hearing things fifth hand, sixth hand. Some of it is even guesswork, and we take it so literally, and we believe it completely, and we become fanatical about it. So one of the crazy things of our time, of this time, is that, in the past, when you used the word fanatic, it was almost always religious fanaticism. I think for the last couple of decades, we have suffered from religious fanaticism. Now, all of a sudden, religion seems to be mild compared to the fanaticism in every other area of life. Everyone has become fanatical about something else. Fanatical about politics, fanatical about health, fanatical about the environment, fanatical about money. Real fanaticism. Either this way or life is over. We've managed over thousands of years to avoid fanaticism. We were told by the Chachamim, Al titzdak harbe, don't overdo it, don't become a fanatic, don't be more frum than the Eberste. Now fanaticism has replaced rational thinking. It's true. But you see, that is all the Avodah Zarah of the day. And before we came out of Mitzrayim, the first thing that had to happen is all the idols, all the Avodah Zarah of Mitzrayim had to fail convincingly. So the Nile turns into blood because that was the biggest idol of the Egyptians. And then we had to shech the lamb before Pesach because the lamb, the sheep, were worshipped by the Egyptians, and so on. Pare himself was probably worshipped as a god, and he had to fail and admit that he's merely human or barely human. So the first thing that has to go is all the false beliefs. So I think that in our time today, those failed beliefs are everywhere. Whatever we once believed in, whatever we once trusted, miserable failures, nothing but frustration wherever you look. And that's why people are becoming fanatical. You have to cling to something desperately, and when you're desperate, you're fanatical. The truth, of course, is, like he says in the Medrash, that when Moshiach will come, he will stand on the roof of the Beis Hamikdash, umashmiya lehem liyisrael, and he will say to the Yidden, Anovim, higia zman geulaschem, which is very strange because Moshiach is already here. He's standing on the roof of the Beis Hamikdash, which means he already built the Beis Hamikdash. And what does he need to tell us? That higia zman geulaschem? But we don't know this. We have Moshiach, we have a Beis Hamikdash, and Moshiach has to scream from the rooftops, shout from the rooftop that the Geula has come. V'kol ma she'asisi le'asisi ela b'shvilchem. God has to reassure us. Everything he did for our benefit. But you read the news and you get confused. Don't read the news. Follow the Jewish path. The path of Emunah. Because the path of Emunah is the most rational, the most reasonable, the most sensible path left. What is the path of Emunah? God runs the world. God runs the world. He's not only the Beirei Olam, he not only is the creator, he is the Manig HaOlam. He's the master of the universe, which means he runs it. Let's use a very simple example. When somebody says, Gam zu l'tova, or asks, why do bad things happen to good people? That's not a Jewish question. A Jew doesn't ask, why do bad things happen to good people? Chachamim ask, why do good people suffer? Why do good people suffer? The word bad does not appear. And here's the meaning of it. The word bad applies only to something that should not happen. That's what bad means. Something that should not have happened. If it should happen, it may be painful. It may be sad, but it's not bad. For example, an operation, it's painful, it's sad that it's necessary, but to say an operation is a bad thing happening to a patient, it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing under the circumstances. You should never need it. But when you do, it's a good thing. But what about all the pain? Pain isn't necessarily bad. The only time pain is bad is if it shouldn't happen. Even death itself. A person passes away at a ripe old age, surrounded by his family. This is bad? It's tragic. You have to sit shiva. But to say it's bad, a bad thing happened? So the word bad, used correctly, means something that should not have happened. So when we say nothing bad comes min hashamayim, nothing bad comes to the world from heaven, we mean literally nothing that shouldn't happen ever happens. Does pain come in Hashamayim? Absolutely. Does tragedy come in Hashamayim? Absolutely. But always for a reason. So is never something happening in the world that should not have happened. It goes against the very belief in Hashem Echad, to think that something can happen when it shouldn't. What does it mean? Something happened, but it shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have happened means God didn't make it happen. God didn't want it to happen. So it shouldn't have happened. Well, then how did it happen? It's a very fundamental question. Can something happen that isn't meant to happen? It's not a question of does it happen. Can it happen? In other words, is there a good God and a bad God? Is there a big God and a little God? The big God doesn't want this to happen, but the little God makes it happen. Is that kosher? Bad things can't happen because bad means that it's not part of Hashem's plan. Well, if it's not part of Hashem's plan, how did it happen? There's only one mover and shaker. There is only one cause in the universe, and that is Hashem Echad. So not only do bad things not happen, they can't happen. They can't. So everything that happens in the world, everything, a leaf that moves from one side of the street to another on a windy day, it's moving because the wind is causing it to move? Or is it moving because there's a divine plan and a purpose for the leaf to be on the other side of the street? Simple emunah in Hashem Echad means nothing can happen without a creator causing it to happen. If that's true, then most of our fears disappear. Who's going to win the election? Whoever God chooses, of course. Who else? So, I remember this rabbi who was on the radio being interviewed after the tsunami. And people were stunned and shocked and unbelieving the devastation that the tsunami caused. And people were saying, why would God do this? Why would God do this? So they invited this rabbi to come on the talk show to explain the theology of it. And this rabbi said, you know, when I first heard the news, I had the question too. Why would God do something like that? But then they explained that the tsunami is caused by an underwater earthquake. Well, now we know it wasn't God. So he's defending God by saying God didn't do it. It was an underwater earthquake or an underwater volcano or something. That's complete and total apicursus. People died because there was an earthquake. People die because there's a virus. What happened to our emunah? Just like God has to cause the virus, God has to cause the consequences of the virus. There's a beautiful medrash that says that when the Yidden made the Egel, Moshe Rabbeinu said to Hashem, Lama Hashem yechere apcha be'amecha. The Medrash says that was something that only Moshe could get away with. If a human being would say such a thing to a human king, he would be condemned to death. What was Moshe saying? Lama Hashem yechere apcha be'amecha. What are you angry about? So what am I angry about? 40 days ago, I said that you should not worship an idol and you should not make graven images. And here they made a golden calf. What am I angry about? But Moshe was so sincere. So the Medrash says, here's the full conversation. The story behind the story. Moshe Rabbeinu said, what are you angry about? What are you angry about? The Yidden are bowing to a cow. Cows give milk. Is it so terrible to show a little appreciation and gratitude to the cow for the milk? Hashem said to Moshe, you too? You're making the same mistake. A cow doesn't make milk. I have to create the cow, I have to create the milk, and I have to make the cow give the milk. A cow doesn't do anything. A cow is nothing. So Moshe said, so what are you angry about? They're bowing to nothing. So the Medrash says, anyone who would do this with a human king would get his head cut off. But because Moshe was so sincere and so protective of the Yidden, Hashem actually appreciated it, loved him for it. But look at what the conversation is. A cow gives milk. It's like saying, the Eibishter said during creation, let there be a cow. Well, cows give milk. A cow does not have any influence, any say, any authority over anything. The same is true with the tragedies of today. People are dying, and the Eibishter should enlighten us and tell us why and what for. But to say they're dying because of a virus is just killing people, and Hashem is out of control. He's just watching helplessly. I mean, can you call that emunah? I'm talking basic, minimal emunah. Of course not. Of course not. So, we don't understand why the righteous suffer. But what does it mean we don't understand why? It means we don't understand Hashem's purpose. That doesn't mean that bad things are happening. Bad things can't happen. Sometimes God does things that are painful. But we know that He's doing it. We know that there's a reason. We know that it's all for the good. Nothing happens by itself or from other sources, God forbid. So where does that leave us? There's no question that Moshiach is knocking down the door. But what will it take? Moshiach is not a miracle. It can't be a miracle. Because if Moshiach is going to come miraculously, he could have come 1,000 years ago. What's the difference? A miracle can happen anytime. And it's not that we deserve a miracle more than previous generations. Probably not. So what does it mean? Moshiach is coming now to us? Moshiach is not a miracle. Moshiach is the maturing of the universe, where the world becomes the way it's meant to be, the way God created it to be, but it takes maturity, and it takes a certain amount of wisdom to see the truth, to identify the truth, and to live by the truth. So one of the things that has to happen before Moshiach comes is that we have to be open, ready, prepared, strong enough to take the surprise of Mashiach's arrival. We have to be conditioned, because it has to happen naturally, and we have to respond properly. You know, it wouldn't make sense for Moshiach to come and everybody goes crazy. We don't need a new problem in the world. Moshiach is not going to bring a new problem. So the world has to be conditioned and ready for Moshiach. What does that mean? Number one, it means that the world has to stop trusting and believing in things that are not true. As long as you think you know, as long as you think you have the answer, as long as you think you have the emes, you will never hear the emes. So the arrogance of human ingenuity, technology and science and medicine used to give us answers not so long ago. Many people believe that science will solve all our problems, that nature has all the answers, that medicine will cure every disease, and that politicians will make sure that it all happens. Well, I think it's safe to say nobody thinks that anymore. To a certain degree, science created our problems. Medicine has no answer for these problems. Like you said, we don't know if we should wear a mask or not wear a mask, if we should stand together within 6 feet, not within 6 feet. We don't know. We don't know who gets the virus. We don't know for whom it's most dangerous. We don't know. We're guessing. And politicians are taking advantage. Everybody's using it for political gain. So do we still trust politics? Do we trust medicine? We're afraid to go into a hospital. So, for the first time probably in history, the entire world, every country in the world, is now admitting openly, we don't know. We don't know. We don't know what the answer is. Well, that conditions us, that sets us up for a certain amount of humility with which we can now hear emes. So if Moshiach comes and says emes, the world will recognize it. We're open. We're not stubborn enough to deny the truth anymore. I'm not talking about individuals. I'm talking as a rule. The exceptions, well, they're going to have to follow the majority. The world, as a rule, is ready to hear the emes because we have no more fantasies. We have no more false beliefs. We have no more idols. It's gone. Even religion itself, it's gone. Only thing left is the Torah. The only thing left is the message of Judaism. And the world knows it. So, should we be panicking? No, not at all. We should be very excited. We should be very excited. Because if you don't listen to the confusion of the media, what's really happening is the world has gotten so much better in the past 7 months, so much better, morally, not politically, not materially, not militarily, morally, we have become a much better people. Now, it's true that we are having a lot of disagreements, strong disagreements, but that's panic. Goodness is spreading in some unexpected places and unexpected ways. So here's what we should be looking forward to in the coming year. The world is being prepared for Moshiach. Not through the suffering, God forbid, That's been done. The Chevle Moshiach, the birth pangs of Moshiach, those are done. Now we simply have to adjust our thinking so that we can think a new way, a way that Moshiach will introduce, so that the whole world can recognize one simple truth, one set of moral laws that unites the world rather than fracture the world. This is what is happening. Last year was the removal of all the false beliefs. This year, beginning in Rosh Hashanah, this year the emes, the real truth, will spread without any resistance to the entire world. The surprises of last year were disorienting. There will be surprises this year, but it will all be surprisingly good. What does surprisingly good mean? Goodness you never imagined. People have the expression, it can't get any worse. And we're always surprised that it can get worse. But this time we're going to be surprised at how much better. When you think it can't get any better, it's going to get much better than we think. There is more goodness than we know of. I'm not saying more people will be kind. Of course, more people will be kind. More people will be refined and edel. Of course. That's just necessary. The surprise is going to be goodness we never even imagined. Like, for example, every Jew in the world is going to be excited and inspired by their Jewishness. Every Jew will be excited to be a Jew. Every human being will be devoted to making the world a moral place. The Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. And nature will provide so much treasure that we have not discovered yet, that we will be so comfortable and so wealthy. We will have everything a person can possibly need, so that there will be no thoughts of war, no thoughts of competition, of jealousy, of stealing, of lying. There will be no need. No need. The world will finally be an Eretz HaKodesh, the whole world. And Eretz Yisrael will be the Yerushalayim of the whole world. And Yerushalayim will be one big Beis HaMikdash. This is what is going to happen without a doubt. And now we can understand a little bit. The Gemara says that Moshiach is going to come behesach hadas. You hear this? Moshiach will come by surprise, unexpectedly. Now here we say, Animamim be'emunah shlema b'vias HaMashiach every single day. We talk about Moshiach all the time. We ask, why is Moshiach not here? Why isn't he coming? When is he coming? And then when he comes, we're going to be surprised? It will be unexpected? So one holy person once said, the Moshiach you're expecting is not coming. The Moshiach that is coming is so much better than what you expect. That makes sense. It makes sense. Because the coming of Moshiach, one of the things that it does is heals all the pain of the past. Heals it. It's not just that we move on. Every pain, every tragedy, every puzzle, every unanswered question will become resolved, and we will see the beauty of it and the goodness of it and the rightfulness of it. We will actually say, Eidcha Hashem, I praise you and I thank you. Ki anafta bi, for all the things that I once thought were punishment and painful and tragic. How else? How else? It can't be that pain and suffering happens for 6,000 years, then it stops and everything is good from then on. That's not good enough. Moshiach has to be so good that it makes the 6,000 years of Golus, it makes it all good. More than compensates. It makes it all good. So it's got to be a good that we have not ever seen before. Now that kind of a radical change that is not going to blow our fuses, we have to be eased into it gradually, naturally. That's what's happening. The good is dawning, it is spreading, it is taking over, it is much more powerful than the tragedies. But in order to not freak out about it, God developed this thing called media that's supposed to tell you that Moshiach is coming, but it also conceals the process so that you don't get overwhelmed. But if you stop and think a little bit, every bad news you hear, don't believe it. Don't believe it. It's the camouflage. It's the concealment. But what's really happening is the world is getting better by the minute. By the minute. And it will all come out revealed openly. Arenu neflois. We will be able to see things that are absolutely astonishing, and we will be able to embody it, we'll be able to accept it, we'll be able to digest it properly, and become better people. So a miracle will just blow the fuse. The process of Mashiach is step by step, minute by minute, more and more people are recognizing the emes. Now we have to do our part. When the world is ready to hear the emes, who is going to be the teacher? Who is going to tell the world that wants to know the emes? Who's going to tell them the emes? Rambam says, the Yidden, every Jew is going to have to be a teacher to the world. Because the Jews know Dvarim, Stumim, we know the secrets of creation, we know the reason for creation, we know what Hashem wants from his creation, and now the rest of the world wants to know all of that. So look around and see who you can teach and who you can inspire. By a phone call, using technology, because it's the fastest way to communicate. So, we have the tools, we have the ability, we have the knowledge, and we also have the time. It's all set up beautifully and perfectly. There's only one thing missing in this world, and that's not a job or work or career. It's not politics. It's not government. It's not even money. There's only one thing missing: godly wisdom. So the Torah is our wisdom. Hi chachmaschem ubinaschem le'enei kol hagoyim. Our wisdom and our chachma, which is the Torah, we have to present for all the nations to see. That's a geula. That's Moshiach. So, worry with a mask, without a mask, that's not the issue. This political party, that political party, not the issue. The issue is, watch how God is revealing Moshiach to the world and the emes to the world, day by day, minute by minute. And this year, it's all going to come out. As mysterious as last year was, as confusing, confounding, that's how good and how revealed and how clear things are going to become this year. Just don't expect it to be in the headlines. That happens after Mashiach is here. If you see good news in the news, if you see good news in a headline, you know Mashiach is here already. That'll be the best sign. When the headlines in the newspaper announce good news, Moshiach has taken over. So, be optimistic. Be very optimistic. This is going to be an incredible year, a Moshiach-dike year. And we have no idea how good that is. Until we see it, we're not going to believe it. So yes, Moshiach will come behesach hadas. But it's all good.